My hair is wild. So there comes a time whenever you watch a film and you have to do the quote-unquote intense rewatch. And I'm not talking about sitting down, revisiting the film just because you want to, but a clear re-evaluation of something in the past that you might not have understood. I've done that for a few films, where it's not as simple as just getting all cozy and, watching the film again. What it is you have to pay attention to every single detail and sort of, in a way, look at it through the filmmaker's eyes. Because I think a lot of the times when people watch films, which of course that's the way it should be, so I'm not trying to say this in any way, but when people watch a film for the first time, it is an audience mindset, which it should be. It definitely should be. But I think for rewatches, it's always healthy, I think, for the film's point of view, is to look at it from the filmmaker's perspective. There are some films that I rewatch as an audience member just because I still really love the film, but there are films that I have to look at through the eyes of the director. And Mulholland Drive is definitely one of those films. It is a film that ever since I first watched it, I have been itching to revisit it. And David Lynch is one of my favorite directors. I love David Lynch. He is just been such a big inspiration to me. Actually, I'll have a short film coming out later this year called Zen. And it's actually dedicated to David Lynch. So I cannot wait to show you guys that. But that's besides the point. Let's talk about Mulholland Drive. Now, Mulholland Drive follows a woman who does not remember her name after a quote-unquote car crash. Now, she ends up taking refuge inside of this house where this other woman is staying because her aunt is letting her stay there while her aunt films a movie in Canada. Basically, you get to see these two women sort of, I guess you could say, because one of them goes by, I'm drawing a blank, Rita, but she doesn't really remember anything. She just doesn't. So Naomi Watts' character, she has to basically they sort of go on this little adventure to sort of figure out what her past is and how she got to where she was. But in between all of this, there's kind of these little vignettes that are almost like, rewatching it, they kind of reminded me of little short films where you get to see these characters and their interactions and how they do sort of pertain to the story to us, like an extent. Like when the film first starts and these little stories come up, it can be very jarring, it can be very confusing. I think that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, it's a pretty confusing film. I mean, go on Reddit, you'll hear everybody complain about it. But then whenever you get to the last part of the film, then all of these sort of characters and locations sort of start to blend together into a I was going to say cohesive, but I need to watch what I'm saying. But things start to make a little bit more sense. Now, this time around, I did enjoy the film, not just enjoy, but understand the film a lot more than the first time. Like, I would even go as far as saying that this film is masterful. I love it. It moved right up there on my David Lynch ranked list. It was sort of towards the bottom when I first watched it. But there's one scene in particular that really stood out to me watching it again, now, and it's the diner scene, where the two individuals are going back and forth about a dream that this one guy had, and statistically that scene should not work. I mean, it's very predictable blocking. The camera's sort of floating around. It can be sort of jarring, and then you sort of have the monotone delivery, and then you have the red herring that is very just on point. It's very straightforward. It's almost kind of distracting, and then basically the story that he just told actually appears in front of an audience's eyes, but it takes you off guard, and it's so powerful. I mean, it is probably one of the best examples of editing that I could possibly think of right now at the moment. And you can't help but wonder how extensive David Lynch's dreams are, and if he just writes his own dreams, because I would be pretty shocked if he didn't. The film also has Billy Ray Cyrus in it, which is a just 10 out of a 10. It's a 10 out of a 10. But when looking at a film like Mulholland Drive, you really do have to accept that what you're looking at and what you're experiencing is something that's meant to be more abstract. Now, originally, Mulholland Drive was meant to be a TV show, succeeding Twin Peaks. But I believe the network canceled it, so David Lynch took what he shot for the pilot, and then he filmed more stuff and turned it into a feature, which I actually think is great, because I've heard it's not necessarily a quote, but it's kind of a statement where they say that every director should go out and just film something without even, having a story or anything. Just sort of film something, try to put something together. It's something like that, because it forces you to really think outside the box. And that's what really kind of reminded me about David Lynch doing this, is where he had an hour of footage shot and then he just shot a bunch of other stuff and then edited it together. Like, I know it probably went further than that, but that's basically what this is. And it's just very admirable that he didn't give up on the project. You know, like, imagine just shooting a pilot, something that was meant to be a whole TV series. And if it's meant to be a whole TV series or a whole TV show, then you probably, you know, naturally have ideas in your head of how that show is going to elevate and evolve over time, but then only for it to be canceled, and you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to have to take some of these ideas and put them in a feature film. So it sort of made me wonder if this sort of show, if this whole film is basically the show, every idea that he had compiled into one sort of singular vision. Because if it was, it would make a lot of sense, because as you can tell, I'm trying to tiptoe. I don't want to spoil anything, because the whole point is to sort of maybe convince people to watch this film. But it really has so many ideas going on at once that it doesn't really give the audience enough time to be bored. I mean, when I was looking at the runtime, for some odd reason, I thought this film was like an hour and 50 minutes. Boy, was I wrong. It was 2 hours and 30 minutes long. But yeah, it didn't bother me at all. I just really appreciated my time again with Mulholland Drive, to the point to where I need to revisit a lot of David Lynch's films. I just need to, because Mulholland Drive, it's a trip. It's not meant to make perfect sense. It is meant to be sort of a puzzle for the audience member. But just know, if you watch this film one time, it's not going to be enough. You're going to have to watch it multiple times to sort of, you know, understand what's going on and appreciate it for what it actually is. If I could think of some more David Lynch films that I should rewatch, which, I mean, I've viewed David Lynch's films multiple times, but I mean, I would love to revisit, you know, Eraserhead again. I would love to revisit Blue Velvet. I probably need to revisit Blue Velvet. Inland Empire is going to be one that's going to take a second. That one's going to take like a second. But David Lynch is a gem of a filmmaker. He's just so inspiring. I love his work so much. And I would actually just like to read you guys the synopsis of Mulholland Drive as it says on Google, because actually no, let me do it on Letterboxd, because I feel like I'm being very bare bones with it, and maybe there's a little bit more. I'm doing this for you guys, okay? I'm doing it for you guys. Hang on. A love story in the city of dreams. Blonde Betty Ilms has just arrived in Hollywood to become a movie star when she meets an enigmatic brunette with amnesia. Meanwhile, as the two set off to solve the second woman's identity, filmmaker Adam Kesher runs into an ominous trouble while casting his latest project. That's pretty on point. That's pretty on point. Yeah, the film has Billy Ray Cyrus, 10 out of 10. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys did, leave a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. If you guys want to check out my filmography, you definitely can. Check the link tree down below. It would mean a lot to me. I'm always looking to meet other filmmakers. You can also review my stuff on Letterboxd and IMDb. It would help me out a lot as a filmmaker. Also, I did want to say for Mulholland Drive, this watch, I actually watched the 4K Studio Canal version, which I have the Criterion Blu-ray, and then I have the Studio Canal 4K, which they're basically the same 4K restorations, kind of. But the Criterion I have is just the normal Blu-ray. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know. I'd have to compare them, but the 4K looked really good. So, but anyway, guys, take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.